guys, so it is already May. Today is May 1st. It is time for a May TBR. I can't believe it. It just seems like yesterday I recorded and uploaded our April TBR. But here we are at May. Jen and I have picked 5 books that we each want to try to read in the month of May. Here are our selections.
Welcome to my May TBR. This month, again, I have 5 titles that I intend on reading. If you have watched the April TBR, you also know that I don't always get around to all 5. I really wish I could. I wish that I didn't have to work a 40-hour-a-week job, but hey, gotta pay the bills. These are the 5 books that I really hope to read this month. I usually get to 4 or 5, but in April I did not get to 4 or 5. Sometimes there's just too much to do.
The first book on my May TBR is Red Queen by Juan Gomez Wardo, and I apologize if I am not pronouncing that name correctly. But this book is by a non-American author. It's been translated into English. It's a new book. It's pretty popular. I'm really excited to read this. We're following a forensic psychologist. Her name's Antonia Scott. And they say she has a gifted forensic mind, and she has been helping reconstruct crime scenes and help police catch murderers. She's since retired, and then we're following a police officer named John, and his mission is to get her out of retirement to try to help him solve this new murder. It seemed really interesting to me. I'm excited to read it. I love reading authors from other countries. Some of my favorite books have been authors that were not English speaking, and the books have been translated into English. So I'm very excited to read this one.
So first on my list is Jennifer Hillier's Wonderland. I have read Jennifer Hillier before. I really love her books. Little Secrets and Things We Do in the Dark. Little Secrets I absolutely loved. I loved that book so much. It was the first book I read by her. This one takes place in an amusement park, and it just sounded really intriguing about murders that go back years, seemingly tying back to this place. So I picked it up because I saw that it was in reprint, and I really think this will be an interesting read.
The next book on my May TBR is an ARC that I have received from the publisher. I love getting ARCs from publishers. I try my hardest to read all of the ARCs and leave reviews. I know that's the whole point of the campaign, and I feel like if the publishers are willing to send you a book, they want you to review it and read it. That's the least you can do. So for this month, I have 2 ARCs picked out, and the first one is Ink Blood Sister Scribe by Emma Torres. I think I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. But this book was very interesting to me. It's about a family that guards these magical books. There's 2 sisters in this family, and they separate and kind of go separate ways for a little while, but then their father dies while reading one of these books. And so they come back together to try to figure out, I assume, what killed him and what's going on with these magic books. And they get thrown into this world of dark magic that's dangerous, and they didn't know what they were getting into.
I had picked up this book, How to Be a Good Wife, at the Dayton dollar store that I went. I had never heard of this book before. I think that this plot really drew me in. I feel like it's going to be a good read.
The next ARC on my May TBR is The New Mother by Nora Murphy. This is a domestic thriller book about a single mother who just had a baby, and she is trying the best she can to cope with this baby. It's colicky, so it's a very tough baby to handle, and she finally finds some help in a neighbor. And at first she thinks, oh, this is so nice of him. He's so willing to help me. But you find out that he has his own agenda, and he's kind of using this new mother as a tool in this big scheme he has going on. So I don't know what the scheme is. I'm going to find out.
I don't always just read psychological thrillers, but because I've read so many of them, I often read what I call a palate cleanser, which this month I am going to read Emily Henry's Happy Place. I've read Emily Henry's Book Lovers. I'm not typically drawn into romance. I'm not always into the plots of romances, but this plot felt like a romantic comedy, and I felt like that would be a nice departure from the murder and crime and horror that I typically am reading. So I thought this might be a great palate cleanser.
The next book on my May TBR is a new book that was just released, and I think it's more of a fantasy than a thriller, but I love fantasy books, and it is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And in this book, there is this college. It's a war college, so that seems super interesting. I love dark academia. It's a war college where you have to learn to fly dragons. If you either graduate from this college or you don't make it out alive. Look at this book, how pretty it is. Look, sprayed edges. Yep.
I get my suggestions for my TBR from People Magazine and their reviews. They don't do a lot of reviews every week, but I read them consistently every week, and there are times there are books I've never heard of, and this was one of them. It's called Time's Undoing, and it has one of those plot devices that I love, that it's someone researching a murder from the past, and you see both perspectives in the book. So this reporter is researching her great-grandfather's murder, and so you are going to be seeing what she's doing to research that murder and what she's finding out. At the same time, you're also reading about what led up to the murder of her great-grandfather, and it takes place in Alabama. And I just thought it sounded really interesting, and also has that historical perspective, so it's a little different too. So that one made my TBR for May.
The final book on my May TBR is a YA book. At least I think it's YA. But it's also a book I was able to find in the bargain section of Books A Million. So love that. And it is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody. This book I've heard good things about. I've never read this author before, so I'm always trying to read new authors and see if there's any new authors that I just love and want to read all their books. So this is following 7 families that live in a remote city, and every year they have a tournament. Each family picks a champion, and all these champions fight to the death. The winner of the tournament gets control of a secret wellspring of a high magic. There's a mysterious book that comes out and exposes the 7 families and kind of what their tricks are and how they do their training for their champions and what kind of underhanded things they might do to try to win the tournament. It's kind of reminding me of Hunger Games, but with magic.
I am really excited about it. It's probably going to be, firstly, I'm probably going to read this one first in May. And I think Amanda and I are thinking about doing it together, but this one's called Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I am not familiar with this author. I don't typically read fantasy either. This one drew me in because a coworker of mine was going on and on and on about it. She was praising this inside out, read it very quickly. The cover is super gorgeous too. It has spray painted edges and there's little dragons spray painted on there. But it's about dragon riders, and the plot sounded just really interesting. Kind of, I wouldn't say Harry Potter. She compared it to Divergent. Divergent meets Aragon. And I thought that was a very interesting concept. I have read both of those books, and though those are YA, this is adult fantasy. So I thought this would be a really interesting also departure. I like to mix things up sometimes. I get in a rut with psychological thrillers because they tend to have very similar things going on. So then I read other things just to kind of mix it up. And that is my May TBR.
We hope you guys have enjoyed our May TBR and that you will subscribe. So at the end of May, you will find out if we actually read all the books and what we thought of them.